Other game that's got teams in the SEC with one or few conference losses. Just as everyone predicted, Texas's first SEC road trip will be to a top 25 Vandy team. How about it? Number 5 Texas, 18.5-point favorites against number 25, your Vanderbilt Commodores. The over-under I have for this one, Will, is 12 third down conversions for Vandy. Why'd I pick that number? You know why. That's what happened the last time Vandy hosted a top 5 team. Also, over under 0.5 goalposts that make their way into the Cumberland River. I didn't realize that was 3 miles, Will. 3 miles.
That's a trek. I mean, that's a lot of pain and suffering being extinguished over the course. I mean, that's a CrossFit workout by the time. Yeah.
Can you imagine waking up on Sunday? Oh, babe, I'm sore. I carried those goalposts 3 miles. We had dudes doing a 5K while holding goalposts out of a stadium to dump into a river.
Hammered out of their minds. Feel like they just played an NFL game. They're hungover. Their muscles are sore. They're like, "What did I do last night?"
Oh yeah, the goalpost. That's right. That was
yeah. They look like their memories at Instagram. They're like, "Wow, I really yeeted that goalpost." That was like going after it. Yeah.
How does the fishing of the goalposts work? They know it's in the river. Someone has to fish that out. Someone, for the sake of the health of the river. I don't mean to go full environmentalist here, but someone is on dispatch getting that call going, the goalposts are in the river. Yeah, bring the crane. We'll get it figured out. Luckily for Vandy, cranes all over Nashville. They're everywhere, man. They are absolutely everywhere. Not so lucky for Vandy. Texas's third down defense is just a touch better than the last time a top 5 team went into Nashville. Texas, even after the Georgia game, 10th in America in opposing third down percentage, though that number a little bit different in conference play because Mississippi State, of all teams, had 8 third down conversions against Texas. But that is what defined that Alabama loss against Vandy. That Alabama defense grew immensely frustrated that it couldn't get off the field to its own detriment. And the longer you let Diego Pavia hang around, as I always say, that's bad news bears. It just is. The guy that's got 3 upsets as a 3-touchdown underdog, you do not want that guy feeling confident late in the game or feeling like he's got nothing to lose late in the game. Also, Texas' offense.
Quick on that, bro. What are we, this 19-point line? I mean, I feel like it's like how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Like, I don't know. Texas, is a team that, again, they've had great wins. I was all over them before the Georgia game. I get it. I'm not doing revisionist history here, but it's a team that has, didn't look great against Mississippi State, for instance. Like, it's not like they're known for blowing teams out in this way. And well, he's blowing out Diego Pavia. He'll go across the sideline and fight Bevo before he lets that happen. He will finish the game.
It's true. Look, Mizzou, 3-point win, double overtime. Georgia State, throw of the year to win that game in the final minute. Look, nobody blows out Diego Pavia, especially not in his own building. I think Texas's offense badly needs to find some rhythm. And to do that, they need their third down defense to be on point. And they need to be able to control the line of scrimmage and figure out who it is coming off of this Georgia game. Because, they had some nice drives in that Georgia game in the second half. Second half was much better than a first half in which they gained 38 yards. 38 yards. Yeah. First half of this one, I think, will be better. It simply has to be better. The good news for Texas is that while my college floor mate, not roommate, college floor mate, Larry Black, shout out Indiana, one of many shout outs to Indiana this episode, he's doing an excellent job coaching up that Vandy defensive line. Bad news for him, he doesn't have Jalen Walker to turn to. Jalen Walker ain't walking through that door. Even if yours is not exactly seeing the field with 20/20 vision, there's greater margin for error for that Texas offense against a Vandy defense that's second to last in the SEC, which is 14 sacks. I don't know if it's necessarily angry Texas that we see, but I sure as heck know that hungover Texas cannot take that field. If it takes that field, we're talking Diego Pavia statues status, not one statue, multiple statues. You beat 2 top 5 teams in that place. We're talking stadium naming rights. All right. We're going to forego the donor that's thinking about cutting that check, and we're just going to name it Pavia Place or something like that. All right. I don't necessarily think that happens. I refuse to pick a Texas blowout just because picking against Diego Pavia to cover the spread seems really foolish, even though I might have got burned by that last week with lock of the week. We'll get to that later. I'm going to go 31-17 Longhorns. Vandy covers, but it's a struggle offensively at times for Vandy with Pavia perhaps not at 100% coming off of that lower body injury, however you want to chalk it up, knee injury in the Kentucky game.
Yeah, I'm trying, or not trying. I found the stat that I sent you, which is so fascinating about EPA per play. That's another advanced metric that just kind of looks at every play. And dude, it's so funny for quarterbacks in the SEC because Diego Pavia is like head and shoulders above everybody else. Like he's kind of in a tier by himself. It's got like a 0.6 difference. And then there's kind of just like this tier of mid plus, which is Milrow, who's obviously trending down. Like a lot of that work was done early in the season. This is just against SEC competition, right? So he started off pretty hot in SEC competition and then just gotten worse and worse. Nussmeier, who is kind of on the up and up, and another, he's tied with Milrow, but the other metric they're using as a tiebreaker is average offensive grade, which LSU can't run the ball, and Alabama can do it a little bit better, so that's pretty much the reason there. Then we have like Carson Beck, and funny enough, Arch Manning. So I say that to say, then there's a massive drop off. I think this is like the, what do you believe? Like, do you believe your how you think things go or how they're actually going? Yeah, dude, Diego Pavia is actually like, this is not a bit. He's way better than everyone this year. And so I'm right there with you. I'm not necessarily going to pick them to upset Texas. Like, I'm not going to go swing the complete other way and just say whatever. The thing that's the reason why I won't pick that is because at the end of the day, it's going to be about Vanderbilt's defense. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think we are getting a deep preview about Vanderbilt. What a time to be alive.
Love it.
I'm like, yeah. So point being, about like it's going to be about Vanderbilt's defense because at the end of the day, I mean, Georgia's defense just completely, neutered the Longhorns as like a Mississippi State coach once did. And so point being, there wasn't even anything to that game outside of that. Like we talked about, Carson Beck had 3 picks, but the Texas offense had 4 horrible turnovers. I mean, just like the Georgia should have beaten them by 30
Texas
or 40
defense
points.
played well. They played well in that game. I will go to bat and say that. Not a perfect game, but not a game in which all of a sudden you said to yourself, wow, Texas got exposed by the Georgia offense. Like their scoring possessions in the first half were like their touchdown drives were the 34-yard line of Texas or better. And then they had like a field goal drive from Georgia's own 45. But it wasn't like up until that march down the field after the chaos had ensued. That was really the only time that game in which you said, the Texas defense just did not quite get it done.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. It's one of those things, like, I'm not saying this to detract from Georgia. I'm saying this because it makes a much funnier point about Texas, which is that we both like the Texas defense going into this game. We weren't necessarily wrong. Despite the horrors, the Texas defense actually played pretty well and, again, turned them over, 3 total times. I'd go check fumbles real quick, but they turned them over 3 total times. They did enough to make it look good on paper if you didn't watch that game for whatever reason, if you were crazy. But, like, that game does not – the final score does not indicate how that game was played, and all that was just the Texas defense. So I say that to say, it's going to come down to the Vandy defense making Quinn Ewers work and make those costly turnovers, because I think that, it's not like we've seen like Diego Pavia versus the Texas defense is going to be a great showdown. Like, as insane as that sounds, I think it's going to be a good one, but it's really going to fundamentally fall on the Vandy defense because we've seen a Texas offense go from, they sputtered at times. Good.
It's best defense that Diego Pavia's faced without a doubt. Think about it.
Yeah.
Georgia State, impressive.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech, a lot of experience back on that group for a defense-minded head coach. It's easily the best defense that Diego Pavia has faced. And what I wonder about, his favorite target, Eli Stowers, former A&M quarterback, former New Mexico State quarterback, turned tight end, who's become an all-SEC type player this year. He really has. He's been awesome. He's part of that New Mexico State migration. Stick Anthony Hill Jr. on that guy for a game, because I know you would typically say elite tight end with a linebacker on you, advantage elite tight end. Anthony Hill Jr. is different. And I am very curious if our guy PK is going to make that decision to say, I'm just going to stick my best player on his best weapon and hope that kind of takes care of it. Bama didn't really have a guy that could do that. Vandy's run into a lot of teams that didn't really have a guy that could stick on him. And I'm curious if that's kind of the plan. Not quite a full-on shadow. You don't want to do that with Anthony Hill. He's too good at getting into the backfield. You want to take away that part of his game. But I am interested if that is kind of the strategy, and if that's the thing that can make this more of a challenge than it's been for Diego Pavia.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's one thing, like Alabama has some incredibly talented players on defense. That's the thing. Now they have no idea how to utilize them some of the times, as I asked Malachi Moore, but like they have the personnel. That's the funny thing about Alabama. They could figure this out tomorrow if they wanted to. So like I'm right there with you. And when it becomes okay, they lost the receivers coming into the year. When you actually have 5-star athletes that are actually where they're supposed to be, then that depth becomes a problem because now you got a guy who's like smarter than both of us and could do his own taxes, try to catch passes against Texas. The guy's going to be in the NFL in 2 years. So anyway, I say that to say I'm with you. Like it's going to be a very interesting chess match on both sides because, yeah, I think the Texas defense is still very good, and Diego Pavia is that dude. So we could say this is the best quarterback in the SEC. That's fine. Him going against what we still think is probably the best defense in the SEC.
Strength on strength, baby.
Yeah, and again, not dumping on Georgia. Y'all leave me alone. They had a great game. Okay. The Vanderbilt game also happened. The state game, let's put a couple together before we can say that. So I say that to say on the other side of it, we have Quinn Ewers, who has looked solid. He's looked great against some teams. He's gotten injured. He's not been whatever. But like the Vandy defense needs to step up because they have, this Texas offense can be exposed, but when they get on a roll, they look unstoppable. And I'm not saying they've just forgotten how to do that because Georgia just completely sunned them for 60 minutes.
I'm at the point now, Will, where you talk about Diego Pavia, best quarterback in the SEC. If someone says that, and if I'm the judge, sustained.
It's statistically true. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it's a joke that he plays for Vandy. He's like small. We get it, but like based on what we've seen on the field, almost beating Mizzou and beating Alabama convincingly is awesome, and he did that. Like
I'm probably like, if you're giving me a full game and equal weapons and all that stuff, and that's obviously really difficult to do, I'm probably taking Nuss. But I'm also not hating on anyone for taking Diego Pavia. If you want to run that type of offense, and if you can do the things that Tim Beck has done, again, different Tim Beck that we've talked about a million times.
Yeah.
The one who's on the other side of 60, who spent most of his career in the MIAA, which is like the SEC of Division II football. People forget that. Spent a few decades at Pittsburgh State. Not where you think it is.
The Gorillas stand up.
Yeah, let's go. How about that? Wow. Yeah, back in my days, Nebraska, University of Nebraska Kearney, would see that logo whenever I'd go into the building and be like, "Buddy, we're talking about the Gorillas. Love it." What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Tim Beck. Yeah, if Diego Pavia does it against this Texas defense, I am banging the drum. I am shouting from the mountaintops. I'm not getting a tattoo just yet because that's something that we can't turn back. But I'm doing a lot of very permanent things for the Diego Pavia for Heisman campaign. I am.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. We could move on after this. Is this the Cinderella story? Is this March Madness
Hell
when the team
yeah.
beats Kentucky? Or no.
Oh,
or
okay.
is this like Butler, where it's like, oh, you guys have smacked 3 more teams. Hold on, we actually feel bad picking against you now. And it's like same deal here. Like what was it, Loyola Chicago a couple years ago? It's like, oh no, you guys are now beating 2 and 3 and 4 Blue Bloods. They're coming back the next year doing the same thing. Is Diego Pavia, because he's looking to be like, one of my coworkers went to Auburn. I was like, he's looking to be 3-0 against the SEC or against the state of Alabama this year. Like
2008 Steph Curry Davidson. Are we?
That's a great one. That's the one right there. It's like, oh, that's a cute story. Like, oh wait, he's actually this good. Hold on,
He's actually this good. Maybe not getting to the Final Four. Maybe not doing those things. But I'm just saying, if Vandy wins this game against Texas, and Vandy is still going into November, having already clinched bowl eligibility, which, by the way, never done that in program history, reached bowl eligibility before November. I went back and looked it up because I'm a sicko. And the fact that we're talking about Diego Pavia for Heisman Trophy, God, what a year that would be. Unfortunately for Vandy, I don't think it happens. And I do think that Texas ultimately gets the last laugh. But what a great showdown it's going to be in Nashville. Would have been a great site for College game day. I'm okay with where they ended up, in my unbiased opinion.
Yep.
A lot of
did you have final score?
Yeah, I went with Texas 31, Vandy 17. Yeah.
Love it.